What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and just want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for during the pre-market. I'm also going to talk about some very important levels that you should be watching for on SPY, Tesla, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. Before breaking things down about all this information, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And don't forget about the Webull link. The offer ends very soon. If you deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Anyways, let's talk about the market, what's going on so far. So the news came out that the futures ended up actually pushing up just a little bit as traders are looking very optimistic ahead of the key inflationary data reports. And right now, many consumers are expecting a decent CPI. For that reason, there's a good chance the market's going to try to hold up, but I don't expect it to rally very hard. It's likely just going to trade sideways for the majority of the day. But we likely see like more volatility during the first hour or so when the market opens. And I just want to also add that going forward, in about a couple of minutes, we have Bullard starting to give his speech. So be very, very prepared for this because this guy is one of the most hawkish Fed speakers. He's going to be speaking at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. On the East Coast, that's the time he's going to be speaking 30 minutes before the market opens. So just be ready for that just in case. Then after that, at about 10 o'clock a.m., we have the economic optimism report coming out for July. And we're going to find out how this is looking for now. And this is likely going to be more positive because lots of the news coming out has been quite positive. And there hasn't been a really, really bad piece of news for the economy in quite a while, right? Now, all of this could change moving forward depending on how factors go in the month of July, going into August. But for now, consumers are looking more optimistic that inflation is going to drop, and this could be pretty decent for the markets. And then besides that, there's not much else data coming out, so I think the market will slow down after like 10:30 a.m. or so in the East Coast. So 1 hour after the market opens, I think things are going to slow down a bit, and we might see the market just trade sideways for the majority of the day. But then at the very end of the day, the market's going to likely either push in one direction, and we could see it try to pump up or down depending on how the market's looking. So just be very careful. On days like this, we see lots of repositioning and lots of institutions just basically being very patient. And we could see some market makers like move money here and there, but nothing too massive usually. So what I'm going to be watching for is could the market continue to push up just a little bit as we saw futures in a very decent place. There's this imbalance up here on this like 441.79 area. There's a chance it pumps just a tiny bit up there. Then we just chop around very sideways for the majority of the day before we start to see the market close. It's likely not going to be a crazy fun day to trade. I just want to make that clear. 75 to 80% of the time, that's what happens right before CPI. The market's just going to be patient. But don't forget, tomorrow morning is when things are going to get crazy. So what levels to watch for on SPY? I'll say that once we get above this like 440 area, we're currently above it in the pre-market. If we do hold above 440, you're going to be watching this imbalance right here around this like 441.8 level. It could pump a little bit all the way up there. We're currently just under like 441 at the time I'm recording this. Maybe it pumps just about $1 up there, then it gets a rejection afterwards. If it comes down, watch 440 as support, then the 439.63 area. Very, very small little range right about there. And below that, it could come all the way down to like 438.5 to 438. It's going to likely just trade sideways after that. So I'm going to be looking, could we get this push up to fill this imbalance up here? So this is a level to watch for this 441.75 area. And then if we do manage to get that push during the first hour or so, as the market tends to be more volatile once we start off, when volume starts to increase, volume tends to decrease on days like this after the first hour. So then we're going to likely see a very sideways day. Then we'll see what happens at the very end. But that's what I'm seeing for SPY. For Tesla, it still is looking relatively weak because Tesla is red while the market is trying to pump in the pre-market. It's still trying to look kind of green. Apple's also kind of green in the pre-market. Tesla's still kind of red. Tesla has this pre-market gap right over here. I don't think we fully filled this yet, all the way down to 268. So we might see Tesla drop down to 268 sometime today, retest that level. But I'm not really seeing too much for Tesla. Might trade kind of sideways and eventually try to push up at the very end. But that's completely healthy and normal for it. Now, if Tesla does end up breaking below 265, which could be a little surprising, but if it somehow does that, it's going to likely come all the way down to 262 to fill the gap that was like way back here. All right, so what levels to watch for on Tesla? Well, the answer is you're going to be watching 270 as resistance, 271.24 and 271.57, and then 272 flat. If it breaks down, watch 268 as support. If that fails to hold us, it's going to come all the way down to about this 267 area. If that fails us, it's going to come down to 265. And below that, we're looking to see 262. So just watch it very carefully. And by the way, for Tesla, I just expect lots of sideways price action. It typically pops in the mornings, then like drops. So we might see it pop a little bit in the morning, then come right back down. But don't forget about this gap that's down here. So maybe a pop and drop, then lots of just sideways price action. That's what I'm basically seeing for it, just like yesterday. And for Apple, it's currently a little bit green in the pre-market. It's trying to test about this 190 area. So we're going to be watching around 190. It might just trade around 190 for the majority of the day. I'm not seeing an imbalance. There's this unfilled gap up here around this like 190.75 area, so it could pop a little bit more. We might see a slightly green day, at least to start us off. Lots of sideways action after that, and then eventually we'll see where the market goes for the close. Neo is looking strong, so now above $11. I told you guys yesterday, I think Neo is going to hit 11. Neo is currently at 11.11 in the pre-market, looking quite nice. The triple Q, if this thing wants to go a little higher, I mean, our major resistance or more significant one is going to be like at 368. If it tries to break above that, we could see it get closer to 370, but not really counting on it to like push it super hard. It could be somewhat green, maybe get a little close to 370, then reject after that. But even if it does pump a little bit and form this accumulation, we're likely just going to see some sideways price action afterwards. So it could be forming like a cup and handle. Maybe it like pushes up here, like cools off in the pre-market tomorrow, and then it finally makes a big move after CPI comes out. Could be forming a cup and handle. That's one possibility. I think it's going to try to get close to like 370 very soon, but that's a very small move. It's currently around like 367. So it is a possibility it tries to push up just a little bit, but then I'm going to be anticipating just more sideways action for the majority of the day. But that's about all I'm seeing. Same thing for Nvidia. We're going to be watching, could this thing get above this 425 resistance? It was actually testing this in the pre-market. If it breaks 425, like I said, we could get closer to about this 428 area, then 430, then 433. If it breaks down, you're going to be watching this 421 support. And if that fails, you're going to be watching 420, then these like lower levels like 418, 416, and beyond. So, I mean, for now, I'm just going to be patient with Nvidia. It's kind of stuck in the middle right here. It's going to likely trade around this 420 to 425 area for the majority of the day. So watch that carefully. I'm not expecting too much crazy price action. Just take it easy for the majority of the day. I know a lot of traders who are just taking the day off just because they want to clear their minds and they're just getting ready for tomorrow. For Meta, it's also pumping in the pre-market, holding up quite nicely above our 15,200s. If it breaks down, watch 293 as support, 290.8 now, 287.5 below that. Those are our 15,200 on the 30 minutes time frames. And then we have a potential bullish triangle structure that could be developing. If it tries to break to the upside, you're going to be watching, can this thing get above 298? If it manages to do so, 300 could come if it manages to break that next resistance. But first, it has to get above 295. I think right now it's just trading sideways, not really doing a whole lot. So we're just going to be watching how does this thing move and what we should be looking out for. All right, so anyways, those are the majority of the setups. The market looks like it wants to hold up a little bit for the pre-market, maybe get a small push up to open this up. Bullard could cause more volatility, though he's going to be speaking in just a couple of minutes. So we'll see what happens by the time we open. We could get a pump, a very small pump, just to open us up. And then the market's going to likely just slow down, just trade very, very boringly, very sideways, not really do anything too big. And then we're going to see what happens during power hour, and that's going to be it for the remainder of the day. And then, like I said before, tomorrow is going to be massive, so just be ready for that. All right, guys, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great, great, great trading session. If you are trading, please be ready and do what you have to do. Thank you. Market to the moon, as the long term is still incredibly bright, and peace out.